Touching one's nose. Among the most common signs of lying is the nose touch. It seems that the nose touch is connected to the original mouth covering gesture that is so obvious in children. Because adults are more conscious about body signs that they are displaying, the hand is quickly pulled away from the mouth, which results in a quick nose touching gesture. You can tell the difference between a normal nose itch and a nose touch that is from the signs of lying. The simple itch will be satisfied with rubbing or scratching, but won't be satisfied with just a light touch, and this is what happens when the person is lying. Once again, if the speaker is the one who is displaying the nose touch gesture, it means he could be lying. If it is the listener who does it, then he could simply doubt what he is hearing.
What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you what the research says about why we're all liars, how you can become a lie spotter, and why you might want to go the extra mile and go from lie spotting to truth seeking. Lie spotters are armed with scientific knowledge of how to spot deception. They use it to get to the truth, and they do what mature leaders do every day. They have difficult conversations with difficult people, sometimes during very difficult times. And they start up that path by accepting a core proposition. And that proposition is the following: lying is a cooperative act. Think about it. A lie has no power whatsoever by its mere utterance. Its power emerges when someone else agrees to believe the lie. So I know it may sound like tough love, but look, if at some point you got lied to, it's because you agreed to get lied to. But there are times when we are unwilling participants in deception, and that can have dramatic costs for us. Last year saw $997 billion in corporate fraud alone in the United States. That's an eyelash under $1 trillion. That's 7% of revenues. Deception can cost billions. Think Enron, Madoff, the mortgage crisis. This con man, Henry Oberlander, he was such an effective con man, British authorities say he could have undermined the entire banking system of the Western world. And you can't find this guy on Google. You can't find him anywhere. He was interviewed once, and he said the following. He said, look, I've got one rule. And this was Henry's rule. He said, look, everyone is willing to give you something. They're ready to give you something for whatever it is they're hungry for. We lie more to strangers than we lie to coworkers. Extroverts lie more than introverts. Men lie 8 times more about themselves than they do other people. Women lie more to protect other people. Well, there's steps we can take to navigate our way through the morass. Trained lie spotters get to the truth 90% of the time. The rest of us were only 54% accurate. Why is it so easy to learn? Well, they're good liars and they're bad liars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 patterns of deception, and then we're going to look at the hot spots and see if we can find them ourselves. We're going to start with speech.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people.
Okay, what were the telltale signs? Well, first we heard what's known as a non-contracted denial. Studies show that people who are overdetermined in their denial will resort to formal rather than informal language. We also heard distancing language, that woman. We know that liars will unconsciously distance themselves from their subject using language as their tool. Now, if Bill Clinton had said, well, they tell you the truth, or Richard Nixon's favorite, in all candor, he would have been a dead giveaway for any lie spotter that knows that qualifying language, as it's called, qualifying language like that, further discredits the subject. Now, this brings us to our next pattern, which is body language. With body language, here's what you got to do. You really got to just throw your assumptions out the door. Let the science temper your knowledge a little bit. Because we think liars fidget all the time. Well, guess what? They're known to freeze their upper bodies when they're lying. We think liars won't look in the eyes. Well, guess what? They look you in the eyes a little too much just to compensate for that myth. We think warmth and smiles convey honesty, sincerity, but a trained lie spotter can spot a fake smile a mile away. Can you all spot the fake smile here? You can consciously contract the muscles in your cheeks, but the real smile's in the eyes. The crow's feet of the eyes, they cannot be consciously contracted.
In an ironic twist, the UK is now, quote, at the front of the queue, end quote, as America rushes to pass trade deal. Zero Hedge. Less than 3 months ago, on April the 22nd, 2016, in an address to the British people that may have cost David Cameron his job and led to the ever more rancorous divorce between the UK and the EU, Barack Obama warned that the UK would be at the back of the queue. Just watch this video for his words in person, but I'm sure you will all remember this.
Part of being friends is to be honest and to let you know what I think. And speaking honestly, the outcome of that decision is a matter of deep interest to the United States because it affects our prospects as well. The United States wants a strong United Kingdom as a partner. And the United Kingdom is at its best when it's helping to lead a strong Europe. And I believe the UK strengthens both our collective security and prosperity through the EU. I think it's fair to say that maybe some point down the line there might be a UK-US trade agreement, but it's not going to happen anytime soon because our focus is in negotiating with a big bloc, the European Union, to get a trade agreement done. And UK is going to be in the back of the queue. Not because we don't have a special relationship, but because given the heavy lift on any trade agreement, us having access to a big market with a lot of countries rather than trying to do piecemeal trade agreements is hugely inefficient.
2 months later, a majority of Brits gave Obama the finger and Britain is no longer part of Europe. However, we are still part of Europe and there's still a hell of a lot to implement and enforce that the MPs act in the best interests for the UK citizens, because as we have now understood, the referendum vote only represented an advisory note. Now there's still a lot that can happen behind the scenes, so it's still not worth taking it for granted that it's going to happen, although it does appear to be being implemented. We'll have to see, but fingers crossed it does go through for the sake of future generations. But while that story in itself would be quite satisfying, it turns out that Obama lied again. As it turns out, not only is the UK not at the back of the queue, it finds itself at the very front, as reported by FT, Financial Times. The Obama administration has preliminary discussions with senior UK officials about how they might pursue a trade agreement between the two countries following Brexit's exit from the EU. Washington's top trade official said. The discussions were revealed on Thursday by Mike Froman, the US trade representative, and coincide with a growing push by Republican Brexit supporters in Congress for President Barack Obama to launch talks on a commercial pact quickly. So that's the quick update, guys. You can go onto the Zero Hedge if you want to read a bit more of this one. But basically, all the fears, all the propaganda that happened around the Brexit vote will slowly work its way out as total bullshit. And this will only wake people up to these disgusting people that currently run our systems. These types of predictions and allegations from the 22nd of April have flipped 180 degrees to immediate trade agreements being set up within 2 months. It doesn't stand very well for the reputation of the man who controls the strongest country in the world to change his pledges and recommendations. The guy's a joke. And I'm pretty sure a lot of British people were angered when they saw him come over, presenting that media update with David Cameron. The vote had absolutely nothing to do with him. And a lot of people actually commented on that in the UK, which could have actually been more of a reason for people voting out, simply because there were so many people sticking their noses into business that had nothing to do with them. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.